Hey guys, thanks so much for tuning in to this week's edition of the Original Strength Podcast. Have a very special guest and author with me today, Mr. Nick Kundrat. Is that right, Nick?
Oh, you got it. Yep.
Nick he's also an Original Strength coach. He's one of our coaches, but he has a very good story and a wonderful mission. Nick just wrote a book called Positivity Type 1, How Living with Chronic Illness Can Be Your Most Powerful Motivator for an Extraordinary Life. So just the title alone to me is awesome. But Nick, first of all, thank you so much for being on the show.
Yep. Thanks for having me. I can't stress enough how honored I am to be chatting with you. Original Strength and your teachings and everything are like what got me into the world of restorative movement, holistic health. So it's an absolute pleasure to be here.
Well, man, I'm excited to have you. But for our listeners, why don't you tell us your story? Because to me, it's a good story.
Yeah.
It's a good building story. You're not done.
Definitely not. But yeah, so essentially, I've been living with type 1 diabetes since I was 4 years old. Now I'm 21. So having to be so in touch with my body and how I move and what I eat and how I feel sort of gave me this really deep appreciation for my health. And then that drive to really want to help others improve their health. So I'm so fascinated by how the human body is like woven together so perfectly to move, to breathe, to live. And that mindset really led me to studying exercise physiology in college. I just graduated last month. Thank you. And learning from some like really awesome healers and mentors, studying a couple different philosophies in movement, nutrition, lifestyle modifications, things like that. But yeah, aside from that, I love learning new things. I'm the kind of person that would rather be good at a million different things rather than like an expert at one. I just feel like life's more fun that way personally. But yeah, I like to say that I feel like I haven't been bored in like the last 5 years. Like there's always something fun to be doing, right? But yeah, besides that, I love to travel, see new places, meet new people, and just appreciate what the world has to offer.
So you found out you had diabetes when you were 4.
Yes, that's right.
I'm assuming you remember somewhat. How was life like as a child, like growing up with diabetes? What was that like?
Yeah, so I like to say that luckily, because I was diagnosed at such a young age, it's sort of like all I know. Like I really feel for some of these kids who are diagnosed, in their teen years or even when they're adults, because they're so set in their normal non-diabetes life. And then that really throws a wrench in things when you have to start counting all your carbs, giving insulin shots. So I do remember it a little bit, but being 4 years old, little bits and pieces. But yeah, definitely.
Okay, so, and you just got your degree in exercise physiology.
Yep.
All right, so I know you love movement and you love how the body's all tied together, but why did you decide to go that route for your education?
Yeah, so it's funny actually. When I first started college, as most college kids are, not really sure exactly where they want to take things. So as I got into like doing some gen eds in my first and second year, that's when I really came to that realization that, hey, like living with diabetes is what has given me this interest in the health and wellness field. So I started reaching out to some professors at my school who were in like the exercise science, exercise physiology department. And I really just felt at home, met some really good friends in that, like students my age in that department. So then just decided to switch my major to that. At first I was sort of just undecided. And then it's just all been up from there.
Awesome.
Yeah.
How did you find out about Original Strength?
Yes, good question. So I started my interest in like the movement world and the training exercise world kind of started in like Olympic weightlifting and powerlifting at first. So right when I started college, that's sort of what was really interesting to me at the time. But after a few years of that sort of go, train hard 5 times a week mindset, I started to realize that the harm that sort of lifestyle can bring about, especially as a student. I was working, I was studying, I was training that much, and I realized that there's no way that this could be beneficial for my health, like living this stressful life. So I started searching for answers, and I was introduced to OS, I think through social media or somewhere online or something. But But then I started studying it a little bit, and then I decided to become a certified coach from one of my awesome mentors. Shout out to Dr. J from Got Your Back.
Dr. Klein, yes.
Klein, yes. But it's changed my life in so many ways. Like, it changed the way I live my everyday life, incorporating movement into my everyday, using movement to restore my body, working in rather than working out, using exercise as like a tool for longevity and health rather than just, being able to clean and jerk 500 pounds or whatever,
So, okay, now I have more questions. So you got into Olympic weightlifting and the go and the stress of it. You started thinking there has to be a better way.
Yes.
What was stressful? Like, was it physical stress, emotional stress, mental stress, all of that? I mean, can you fill that in for me?
I think just a little bit of everything, So I, like I said, started the whole 5 days a week training 2 hours a day thing. And like, I wasn't really seeing the results that I was looking for. I didn't really know what I was looking for, but I was expecting to, keep lifting more weight and keep getting bigger, getting stronger. And I think because I was so stressed out with what I was doing in school and, I was studying, I was working, doing this and that those like gains and strength and everything weren't really coming. And then I wasn't feeling my best, obviously. So yeah, that just sort of was like the big wake up call to look for some more answers. And OS was that.
Okay, I get that. I mean, I think we all kind of have a similar story where we chase something because either we want to or we think we're supposed to, or we just think it's the way to go about it.
Right.
But then what we're really after is to feel good, and that's why we're chasing it. But then we discover we're feeling less good than we were before we started chasing it.
Exactly, yes.
All right, so you said something else. You said were working in rather than working out, and it sounded beautiful, but what does that mean?
Yeah, so like, I like to say that with OS, it's sort of like, as you know, everything is so gentle and so focused on like stimulating nervous system, vestibular system, all of these things that aren't really talked about in the traditional like clinical fitness world always. And I kind of got caught in that where I just saw these people lifting all these big weights and I thought it was so cool. So I had to do that. And that was like the way that I worked out. But then coming to the realization that like working in and training for longevity and like that's totally the way to go. And being able to take that change I saw in myself and like being able to help teach others that is so much more rewarding through coaching with OS. And it's just amazing how exercise can be so strikingly simple. Like move how you were made to, you'll feel good,
I think working in is beautiful. So
awesome. I love to hear it.
So if you originated that, man, that is awesome. I'm probably going to keep it and I'm going to use it a lot, but I'll tell people that you said it first.
And I definitely did not originate that. I've heard that somewhere through the grapevine, but I love to say it because it's so true,
That is awesome, man. I really love that. All right. So you're 21 years old.
Yep.
Just graduated. You're undergrad.
Yeah.
You have just also published your first book.
That's right. Yes.
At 21 years young. So to me, that's really neat. And this is a heavy book to me that can really help a lot of people. So Positivity Type 1. Tell me about that.
Yeah. So the story sort of started after me like spending time in the diabetes education space. So I grew up basically as like a product of the system, essentially, because, I was 4 years old. I was diagnosed. I spent a lot of time with doctors and diabetes educators who taught me how to manage my disease, essentially. And then as I grew older, I sort of like cultivated this passion for helping kids with type 1 through volunteer work in hospitals and diabetes camps and things like that. So I've sort of like seen both sides of the coin, so to speak. And I came to notice that a lot of what's missing in traditional diabetes education is the idea of hope and empowerment. So we focus so much on what you're going to lose with type 1. So, you're going to lose the freedoms that a normal kid will have, or you'll have to give insulin shots, or you'll have to count carbs. But we forget to mention all the things that you'll gain. And that's kind of what I've tried to do with Positively Type 1. So with each chapter, basically I've explained a different skill or character trait that diabetes helps you develop. So for example, maturity, problem solving, resilience, forethought, all these different things. And then after each chapter, I've highlighted a young person with type 1 who I felt embodied that specific trait. So these were all awesome, awesome kids who I've worked with in the past, working, like I said, with doctors and at diabetes camps. But yeah, the overall goal is really to get people to accept, like, hey, yes, I have this condition. Yes, it sucks sometimes, but I'm not broken, like I'm going to do everything in my power to be as healthy as I can and to take this diagnosis as my life's biggest challenge rather than this burden to carry with me in my life. And for me, like seeing diabetes as this massive motivator rather than something that I had to live with has changed my life in so many ways. And I really wanted to help others do the same.
So basically, that's beautiful, by the way. But so what you're also doing is showing people how it can almost build up their superpowers, so to speak.
Yeah, exactly. Yep.
That's fantastic. So tell me, you said you have each chapter has a story of a person that you worked with or a child dealing with diabetes. What's your favorite story of a person that you worked with?
Oh, that's a good question. So actually, it's funny you bring this up. I have one who, his name is Mwebaza. He's from Africa, and he reached out to me over Facebook, actually. He heard I was working on this book project, and he sent me a message. He was like, hey, I would love to share about how healthcare is different where we're from, and how, it's different getting insulin. We use different medications, and he wanted to share his story a little bit and reach out for a little bit of like guidance as well. So he's kind of become my like diabetes pen pal, so to speak. So he'll send recipes of like things that he's making, and I'll send him recipes, and we'll talk about what we're doing, and he'll send pictures of his village and everything. It's really, really cool. But he's got a whole little section in the book. So that's probably my favorite. That was my favorite connection. It just shows how powerful like social media, while it can be pretty toxic sometimes, it can really build these awesome connections between borders and countries. It's pretty amazing.
That is amazing. That's really awesome. And I know that there's got to be some kind of like this sense of awe that you're thinking, man, I'm working and helping this kid over in Africa, and he's helping me too. Like, and to the point where he's in the book, like that's just got to be a neat experience altogether.
So cool. It was awesome to see it all come together, especially like a lot of the kids who were in the book were kids who I've worked with for years at diabetes camp. Like I was their camp counselor, and now they're like 16, 17 years old and are writing this like amazing write-up for the book. So it was so cool to just see it all come together. Hearing from all the different kids, like the one thing that they all had in common was just talking about how amazing like the type 1 community is. So they all had different positive aspects. Some talked about how it's made them stronger and made them, like I was saying, better problem solvers, better this and that. But community is like that one thing that they all said, like without diabetes camp and without these different support groups, like that is what really brings everyone together. So I think that's like definitely the most powerful thing.
Awesome. So hope and empowerment.
Yes.
That's what it's all about, right?
Right. Yes, you got it.
That's your first book. You're 21. Do you have plans to write more books?
Definitely, yes. I have a couple in the works. I won't share any details, but personally, I just totally love to write. Like I feel like I get my thoughts out best through writing. So I do a little bit of blogging, and I love writing up little educational social media posts and making videos and stuff like that. But definitely would love to write more books down the line.
If someone has diabetes or they have a child with diabetes and they want to get more resources, or actually maybe they want to meet you and talk with you, how can they find you?
Yes, so I actually have a website. It's called type1onthemove.com. That kind of combines my love of type 1 diabetes, movement, travel, a little bit of everything. And then there's tons of other great resources out there on the web. Some websites like beyondtype1.com, Diatribe. If you just do a quick Google search, there's tons of different resources. But yeah, like I said, the community is so strong. And while it may seem like a small part of the population, there definitely are a lot of us. So there's always someone out there that's going through the same thing you are.
Right on.
Yeah.
So if you're listening, guys, we will put those resources, especially Nick's website, in the comment section of the BodCast. Nick, so while you're in this land of I'm not really sure what I'm going to do other than coach, I definitely think you should pursue what you're doing, man. You're helping people, and just listening to you talk, I already know you're a fantastic coach, and motivator, and friend. So keep
Appreciate that
keep
very
going,
much, Tim. Thank
keep
you.
going in that direction for sure.
Thank you so much.
All right, guys. Hey, thank you so much for tuning in to this week's Original Strength podcast. We will see you next week.
Thank you very much, Tim. Appreciate it.
Thank you so much for listening to this edition of the Original Strength Podcast.